The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank Almighty! We are free at last!
You're listening to the Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm old Alan Autry, and I'm so honored and humbled to have you with us. Let's get this show on the road. Omicron, Omicron, where art thou, Omicron? Everywhere. Omicron is everywhere. You can't run from it. You can try, you can run, but you can't hide. Now, instead of, I look up at these monitors right now, and CBS monitor in front of me right now, Omicron all over the world, Omicron stats. My goodness, Omicron. So I looked to my left, CNN, New York City hospital, see 70% increase. It's everywhere, folks. We all get that. But how about looking at the good news in this thing? And you say, what good news could there be in Omicron? Well, a lot. It's obviously, I think we've lived with it long enough, although it's a rather new mutation on the scene. We've gathered enough data already to know that it's not even close to being severe as COVID-19. It's been described as everything from, a mild little sniffle to a head cold. Excuse me, the folks over in South Africa, where the virus originated, the mutation, said they haven't seen any deaths, only a few hospitalizations. And out of those hospitalizations, excuse me, sorry about that. It was still very mild. They really didn't need to be hospitalized, just out of an abundance of caution, as they say. This thing is here. I talked about on a show yesterday. Let's stop letting this dominate our lives. And say, well, Alan, here you are talking about it. Well, I'm going to be a little bit different voice on it. When I talk about it, it's going to be from a position of hope, not pie in the sky, not head in the sand, not being a denier and not wanting to get people sick and kill people. It is what it is, and thank God it's not what it's not, if that makes sense. To me, in my old brain, it does. We have really dodged the COVID bullet here. I mean, and the real villains here are China. It's costing the economy this, that, and all the tests are going out. My goodness, you get one of these COVID tests, they got $35 for one of them, and you got to test all the time. If you're one of those folks that, your test is only as good as the next time you meet somebody and talk to somebody. I mean, this thing has no end. And shouldn't China be paying for a lot of this? They have $1 trillion of our T-bills. Yeah, we'll stop that interest on it. So we're going to pay ourselves back. We're going to take the interest on those T-bills that you have to the tune of $1 trillion, and we're going to use that money to reimburse folks that have used money out of their own pocket, money they really couldn't afford on a virus that you tried to keep secret from us. And it was created or altered, at least in a lab. You didn't tell people when it first escaped. You put people on airplanes while you were shutting down. And there's enough culpability there to really make a case for China stepping up and paying the tab on all this. But hey, you can do one thing and do something in one hand and wish in the other and see which one fills up first, that you fill in the blanks. But I tell you, I just cannot get worked up about this Omicron. I look at this culture of fear that's out there, this media perpetuated crisis surrounding Omicron, and we should be saying, thank goodness that Omicron is what it is, and it's not what it could have been, and get on with their lives, quit canceling football games, quit, my goodness, NFL, NBA, the players have spoken out. Change your freaking protocols. Don't cancel games. People are going to get this. You don't cancel a game when somebody gets the flu. And I know you're saying, oh, Alan, yeah, no, they've been vaccinated. They told us you get your shot, you get your second shot, you get your booster. These athletes have had it all. And you're seeing these athletes saying, I'm fine. I want to play. The chances of transmitting are very slim. Let us play. Let us go back to the workplace. For goodness sake, don't shut down the schools. So that's where I stand on that on this Tuesday afternoon here in my beloved Fresno, Clovis. Let me ask you something. What do you consider in this great country of ours, which still, regardless of taking in consideration the onslaught that we're facing from the far left to minimize and in some cases take away our freedoms totally, we're still the freest country on the face of the earth at this point. We've got to make some decisions in terms of standing up against, as I said, this onslaught that has infiltrated our political system and our military and our schools. But having said that, we still are the freest country. What do you consider your most important, most precious, most valuable freedom and right that you have? I know a lot of folks out there, and my initial reaction would be, along with them, in saying that freedom of speech. Excuse me. The second, freedom, and you connect them together, the freedom of religion, closely tied to freedom of speech, precious. There's no doubt. That's a very, very important freedom, a bedrock freedom. Go as far as to say that of having a free society. But I've done a lot of thinking about it. I think there's another freedom and right that we have that can be co-equals, and in some cases more important. And that is our God-given right to defend ourselves. In an ever-increasing violent world, this basic right, up to this point, which in America we never really questioned, we always felt having the right to defend ourselves when being threatened, when our physical existence was threatened by an attack of any kind, somebody invading your home, somebody coming at you with swinging fists, or worse than that, a gun on you. Wherever you faced a threat to yourself and your family, you had a God-given right, and that God to defend yourself, and that God-given right was codified in the Constitution. In the words of the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But in this crazy, bizarro world that we're living in, even that right, that basic right, is under attack. And there's a line of thinking that the criminal, the perpetrator of harm, the purveyor of violence, has the right, more of a right to do that to you and me than we have to defend ourselves. That basic right was put on trial recently with Kyle Rittenhouse, and the jury decided that he had a right to defend himself. But you had very influential people, and continue to have very influential people, whether it be in the political world or just the broader political scene, if you will, leaders of communities and such, that say that if you're attacked, your ability and your right to defend yourself is circumstantial. You hear statements being made, just heard one the other day, that you come to a protest or what have you, and you get attacked physically with a club, a tire iron, a deadly weapon other than a gun, that you're some kind of a coward if you defend yourself against that. That you should just kind of man up and make it a fair fight. And I'm sitting there listening to this stuff, and I'm thinking, this is insanity. And this fella, name escapes me. He's a pretty well-known individual, office holder, and I'll get that name for you if you want. But I'm thinking about this, and I'm saying this is not good. And then I started thinking about it some more. You look at all these DAs around the country. Garcon down in L.A. That's making it a misdemeanor to, if you steal less than $900 and the security guard wants to stop you and that individual attacks the security guard really can't fight back. And for an armed security guard, my goodness, don't even think about that. But there's an example that kind of illustrates this issue and brings it to the forefront, for me at least, is something that happened 2 days ago in Pennsylvania, and in a place called the Berwick Township in Pennsylvania, where an elderly couple was attacked by an intruder in their home. And the intruder came in unarmed in terms of having a weapon, but certainly armed with violent intent and his ability to carry out carnage and pain and even death without a gun, with his hands, with his pure strength, and got inside the home somehow, started throwing the wife around. She has sustained very severe injuries. In fact, she's in critical condition in the hospital in Pennsylvania. We wish her a full recovery. Pray that things turn out well. But the husband went and got the gun and proceeded to shoot the intruder dead. Okay. Back in the day, as they say, that would have been something that you never even questioned in terms of, did that man have the right to shoot that unarmed man who was beating his wife to unconsciousness and would soon turn his wrath on the husband? The fact that you simply broke into the home before any of that started. I grew up in an era where you had the right to take out your weapon, and somebody imbalanced enough to break into your home, it was thought, and the prevailing opinion was, that individual would be imbalanced enough to do you harm, and in some cases kill you. So you had a right to defend yourself and your property. Wouldn't question. Well, now that man is under, you guessed it, attack from the left. Folks on the left saying that, there was other things you could have done. Like what? While he's beating your wife to death, you go put him in a reverse naked chokehold like Ultimate Fighter, and then call the police while he's out. You should have got on the phone and called a social worker to come out and deal with him, because the person probably was imbalanced to do such a thing. I acknowledge that. But when you make someone pick between the life of your spouse of 50 years and someone who's mentally imbalanced, as much as you may feel for that individual, I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do. That guy's going to be stopped by any means necessary And before he can make another fist, and hit my wife again. And I will take the consequences of that. Again, folks my age and even younger, let's say if you're over 40, probably even less than that, in your late 30s, that right to defend yourself was something we all agreed upon. It didn't have a political aspect to it. It wasn't an issue embraced by the right and, shunned by the left, or embraced by the left and shunned by the right. It was just common sense that you had a right to free speech, right to freedom of religion, and the basic right to defend yourself. But even that, we got to be ready in this whole crazy world we live in to defend ourselves. And my concern is people are going to start hesitating. God forbid someone breaks into your home and you hesitate because of the political climate out there. And you say, if I pull this trigger, I may be I may be the one standing a trial for murder, not this individual who broke into my home and assaulted my family. It's a horrible thing to ponder. It's a horrible thing to admit. That's the time we're living in. But as Rick Warren says, the truth will set you free, but first it'll make you miserable. And that's the miserable truth. Now, let's all come together, stay together until we're set free and get rid of this nonsense. All right, this is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back. All right, Jose, we got 2 more segments. Okay, I forgot. I haven't done one of these in a while. That's how much we have left?
Yeah, on the whole hour.
Whole hour, good. Okay.
Yeah, so you could take your breaks whenever.
Gotcha. Oh, we got Facebook back on. Welcome, folks. Isn't that just, God. I mean, we're putting things on the table for debate and discussion. I'm all for being open-minded, discussing things. I'm really into these teachings of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Very interesting guys. And they're not over our heads, believe me. Still go into YouTube and do a little research online. These guys were really down-to-earth, common-sense people. I know when I was in school, I'd hear those names and think, oh, that's too deep for me. But they're really not. And Aristotle, Socrates, who greatly influenced Plato and Aristotle, this whole thing was, you question things. You want to question everything. But as Plato learned from Aristotle, from Socrates, he kind of amended things a little bit. He says, okay, we're going to ask questions of everything and examine things, but there's certain things that are given, that are just truths and are self-evident on their just mere substance. And one of those is the right to defend yourself. Now, they all three believe don't return evil for evil, but evil for evil is not defending yourself, is not evil. Somebody's attacking you and your family, and you have to make that decision. But the fact that we're even having that topic to discuss whether we have a right to defend ourselves, whether Kyle Rittenhouse had a right to guys beating him to death with a skateboard. Skateboard's fun when you're riding it. You ever felt one of those things? I mean, it's a deadly weapon. That guy was swinging for the fences on it. Should he have been there? Probably not. Rittenhouse. In fact, he was, and it was about self-defense. That was the jury directions. And I think they got it right. Oh, we're not waiting for a break. We can come back anytime, right? Let me see. Okay. We're ready.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call.
And welcome back to Alan Autry, No Retreat. So what do you do when you have an administration that believes you should have open borders? Just let anybody, everybody, no background checks, just come on in. Take The services that we provide, I don't care if you're a member of MS-13, I don't care, ever, just come on in and welcome to the American buffet, if you will, of services. What do you do when you have those policies? What do you do when you stop the building of a wall that clearly, historically, has always worked, of which you have a lot of the politicians who are against the wall have walls around their own home to protect themselves? But what do you do when that wall is stopped, when you have an open border? Well, if you're Texas, you build your own wall, Jose. You decide we're gonna do it ourselves. And Governor Abbott there has proceeded with the agreement with the legislature, and mind you, the vast majority of Texans and a huge majority of Hispanic Texans are for building that wall across Texas. And especially happy that this is happening are the border towns. And many of those border towns are governed, the mayoral position, by Democrats. And in several cases, very liberal Democrats. And guess who is 100% behind the wall and cheering Governor Abbott on? You guessed it, those liberal mayors from those border cities, because they feel the consequences immediately. They have people coming into their establishments. They don't know who they are. People sleeping out on the streets. They don't know who they are. People wandering onto the ranches, onto the farms, hanging out there. They don't know who they are. There's been very many instances of violent actions being taken against people on these kind of remote farms on the border that are out there. Excuse me. Not to mention they care about COVID. They haven't been COVID tested. So all those people don't want to be quick to call Texas a racist state, bunch of bigots in cowboy hats, and to run down and demonize Governor Abbott. The reason they don't want to go too deep in that issue, they will find out that the building of that wall has, as I said, broad support across racial lines, political lines. It's something they felt like they had to do because this surge at the border was something that was unprecedented. We have never seen in the history of this country that many people, thousands and thousands and thousands, congregated on the border, and more to come with these caravans. So I'm all for the administration saying, well, we want to work on the root cause of this immigration, and hey, amen to that. But as you go for the long-term solution, you got to have some short-term relief and short-term policies to deal with the now, because in the now is something that could undermine this country and certainly undermine the state of Texas very, very quickly if you don't do something, now, immediately, to stop this influx. And the issue of immigration, Governor Abbott knows this full well. I knew this as mayor. Governor Newsom knows this. The subject and the issue of immigration is a federal issue. For years and years, the border, the crossing of the border by illegally, was accepted because it was a lot. It was something that should have been paid attention to, no doubt about that. But the sheer numbers are not what they are today. And the attitude towards illegal immigration was really kind of astounding because, in fact, it got to the point where the Wall Street Journal had a cover story saying, this was the cover, the upside of illegal immigration. And that you had the cheap labor. They didn't have to pay health care for the labor. That you could make a widget or whatever they're making, a computer chip, for less. Restaurants could sell their food for less. Car washes could charge less. Anything to do with actual manual labor could be done. The product could be produced for less. So give us that cheap labor. And it was encouraged. Illegal immigration was encouraged. And I think we were all guilty of participating. When I became mayor, I had to do a lot of soul searching. I did a lot of research on the illegal immigration issue, and I was just heartbroken. And quite honestly, I felt really guilty and ashamed of what I'd found. And basically, this is kind of an illustration. I can give you kind of a visual. You can imagine a good, hard-working man, Mexican man, at the border, on the southern side in Mexico. He's standing at the border, and behind him is abject poverty. Poverty the likes of which in this country we would never see. You got instability in your government. You got cartels and their reign of terror. You just want a better life. And you're there, and the system, the federal system, in partnership with big business, Wall Street, and the chambers of commerce all over the country, and we'll give the person a name. Let's call him Manuel, or Jose, whatever. And we said, "Come on, Manuel, come on across the board." And Manuel, being a man of dignity and law-abiding, said, "Well, no, there's be breaking the law. I don't want to break the law. I just make the legal immigration easier, so I don't have to spend my life savings. I can prove that I'm a good, honest man, and I can be a credit to your country by working hard and being honest and living by the laws of the land, being a respectful participant in building a strong America. I can do that. Just make the legal administration system work better." And what do we say? We said, "Don't worry about it, man. Well, blow that stop sign. We're not writing tickets anymore. We're not enforcing immigration law." And Manuel went, "Oh gosh, I wouldn't feel right doing that." And he said, "Hey, Manuel, smell this. You smell that? That's freedom. Smell good? Oh yeah. Oh, you smell that? That's a future for little mijo and mija over here. You smell that? That's a job. That's opportunity to be and go places, to be who you never thought you could be, to live the American dream. Come on over. Don't worry about breaking the law." And then we said, and by the way, both our husband and wife, mothers and fathers are working. So could you bring your wife over? Because we really need nannies to raise our kids. Could you bring her too? And he said, "Okay." Well, folks, they came. They came. Who wouldn't? And when I gave my second State of the City address, I brought this up. And I raised my hand as having participated in this breaking of the law, this aiding and abetting, and knowing full well the legal immigration system was so onerous, and people were coming across the border making deals with these coyotes and being raped and killed and sex trafficked across the border to get here. And the federal government did nothing. Democrat, Republican presidents, they did nothing. They bowed to big business, and that cheap labor overrode everything, including our morality, including human life. We sold our soul and hurt literally hundreds of thousands, if not more, of good, hardworking people that because we didn't enforce the border law and didn't reform the legal immigration system to allow it more accessible. And, I knew it. Every time I drove my car through the car wash, I'd see a young man over there drying the car off. And I thought to myself, he's not here legally. I ate at a restaurant. Bus boy came out, busted my dishes there back, and I knew. I didn't say anything. You go stay at a hotel. You look at those that are cleaning your room, and they can't speak much English. I know people say, "Well, that is really racist. How they can't speak English. You're saying that they're illegal." Come on, get real. No, not all of them are here illegally, but many are. And I didn't say anything. and they were living in the shadows. They were afraid to open up a bank account, that they were going to be caught and deported. They are afraid that their kids, to just be in society and participate wholly in our society because they lived in fear of being in the shadows. And that's why Cesar Chavez was so against illegal immigration, because he was a union guy, the union dude. And he says, he knew you couldn't unionize illegal behavior. And that's just what big business and the chambers of commerce around the country wanted. Keep it illegal, because when you keep it illegal, you keep it cheap. Truth will set you free. First will make you miserable. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat.
Ready to jump back?
Yeah, let me whip my whistle here. Okay. I'll be ready.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to Alan Autry, No Retreat. Well, I didn't know having a little hour show every day, I'd wind up losing every friend I have. That last segment, I do have some friends, as they say, in high places. I got friends in low places. I got friends in middle places. And, but you know what? I'm just too dang old to BS people. That's how I feel about the immigration issue. I think the federal government blew it. I do believe they were in a cabal with big business. I'm not the only one who feels that way. Maybe one of the few that are so-called conservatives that will say it out loud. But you know what? I get marked off the party list, so what? I still got my family, my God, number one, my family. And I got that clicker, and they got a lot of stations on the old TV, the old Netflix, Amazon Prime. I can order food in. Anyway, that subject is something that the immigration issue, it's very complicated. We need to be real. We need to be honest. We need to come together on that and really once and for all make the reforms necessary. And yeah, we have to secure the border. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. You got to reform the legal immigration system. But I tell you one thing, I will not be a part of demonizing good, hardworking Mexican people and other immigrants who came here at the behest and at the encouragement of the federal government, who told them basically break the law, get over here. I am not going to demonize them who helped build a strong America. All right? I ain't going to go there. So get as mad as you want to at me. That's fine. And I hope you'll take more than that little clip when you make your judgment on me, that I am for a secure border. I am for a reformed legal immigration system so good people can get in here. And stop demonizing people. As I said, number 3, stop demonizing people that we, the American government, allowed and encouraged to come over here illegally. Okay. I've been asked about this January 6th commission and what I think about it. I said before many times in this show, the knuckleheads that went inside the Capitol and broke things, fought with our police, get the heck out of Dodge. I have no patience for that. Those that went there to protest, and as the president said, make your voices patriotically heard. That is a basic principle of this country that I'll stand behind to my dying day, whether I agree with your political point or not. Okay? I didn't agree when during the Chicago Cubs game during the late 60s, early 70s, I believe, that they burned an American flag, and that person has the right to do that out on the field. He didn't have the right to be out there. He should have been, for trespassing, okay, but actual burning of the flag. You want to do that? Sure, your prerogative. But I have the right to cheer Rick Monday when he came over and picked that flag up and cheer him on. But this January 6th commission it's obvious what it is. And I feel bad because Liz Cheney was someone that I respected up to this point. And there's certain things about her I still respect, but I'm not, I don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater. But this is a big baby. This is a real big issue that I think continues to divide this country when there needs to be healing. So I don't think you're going to get the intended goal accomplished. And I took my time on that because I think what we're being told is the intended outcome is not really what the intended outcome really is for these folks in terms of Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, all of these folks, Swalwell. They have become Trump. They call it Trump derangement syndrome. And I've tried to come up with a different term for it, but it pretty much is accurate. It is something that is beyond a policy disagreement. There's a hatred that runs so deep that it's hard for these folks to really put forth policy good for the country when there's so much of that hate inside them. And hate does not produce good policy under any circumstances. Now, this January 6th commission, you got to mind you that the DOJ already investigated this protest. They already went in and found who, and I identified who were the big perpetrators, and was following with the FBI, and these people were being brought to justice. They checked everybody's cell phones. They had all that information that this January 6th commission wants. 2 investigations already underway with many more resources than Liz Cheney and that commission has at their disposal. So that's left with this obvious conclusion. The hate was so deep towards Trump that it had to be exposed, they felt, on the national stage. And the goal being not what's good for America, but to discredit and injure this former president to the point where he could never be considered a viable candidate again. And laying the 100% of the blame and the culpability for the knuckleheads around the neck of President Trump. Anything less than that, Liz Cheney was not going to accept. And let me give you a little history. I said, why does Liz Cheney hate him so much? She voted with him sometime. I'll tell you about the Cheneys. Had some dealings with them as a mayor and some people that are very close to the Cheneys. You mess with one, you got them all. And if you poke the Papa Bear, Dick Cheney, you're really in trouble. They come to Daddy's defense, big time, and they are looking for blood. And if you follow the history of Trump, he was mercilessly criticizing at every moment that he could, criticized the Bush administration, in particular Dick Cheney. Really connected the dots between Cheney and the war machine, as he called it, the Halliburton, the defense contractors. It was Trump's belief that the war in Iraq, even Desert Storm, but especially Bush's, not as much Desert Storm, but George W. Bush's war on terrorism as an economic motive to benefit them personally, in particular Dick Cheney. So he went after Cheney, calling the most crooked politician, one of the most crooked politicians ever in the country. And I don't share Trump's belief on the motive for the Iraq invasion. I think, and this puts me on the side of the minority, I know. I believe the intentions there to try to give democracy a chance was worth a try. And you know who I have on my side? All the politicians, and you guys are probably shaking your heads right now. I know a lot of my followers who love me. They're going, boy, Alan, I can't go there with you. And I get that and I understand that. And I respect that. But you know who is on my side overwhelmingly? Is the soldiers that served them. They saw what they did. They saw the schools that were built. They saw the women who got the vote for the first time. Those purple fingers. They saw the rape rooms that Saddam Hussein and his sons had all over the country, destroyed. He saw young girls, like I said, having a chance for an education for the first time. Little Iraqi kids that had a future, not a life destined for a dictatorship, and especially the young girls. And they saw what was being done there, and they supported it. I'm talking about guys who came back missing a limb, missing both limbs, disfigured, said they saw what they had done and what they were doing. And it's amazing that these soldiers had such a heart for the Iraqi people because they got to know the Iraqi and realized they're just like us. And they deserved a chance for freedom. They were willing to go give freedom a shot there. So I know that rubs some people the wrong way, but you know what? They were there. They experienced it. And when I hear those stories, that hits home to me. And I think to myself, well, my young brother and sister, if that's the way you feel about it, I'm going to think about that a lot. I'm going to give that some thought before I just, from a distance, and for whatever political view may be popular at the time, before I make my decision. And I think in that regard of giving those folks a chance over there, I'm gonna side with those soldiers and think it was not in vain. Their lost limbs were not in vain. If they don't think it's in vain, why should we say that? You know? You say, well, it didn't work, Alan. It didn't work. Well, we gave them a chance. That's all anybody wants. They were willing. Their hearts are not. Now, they're going to find some soldiers out there that are embittered, absolutely, and they have a right to be. You bet. But I was shocked. I've talked to a lot of them, seen a lot of interviews, talked to a lot of them who are personally there, and they all have the same story. They're just not going to accept this prevailing opinion now that the war was a complete fake and a complete failure. Okay, moving right along here. 6 minutes to go, and I have a lot of friends. I grew up, working the fields, as I've said many times on the show, and in the fields, I've said. Again, talking about my experience there, it was equal opportunity cotton. I actually picked cotton, picked fruit, cut grapes. Didn't cut a lot of grapes, but did all kinds of farming. But out in the cotton field, I remember it was predominantly poor white folks from the South, poor black folks, many from the South, and poor Hispanic Mexican folks, mostly from Mexico. I didn't see too many Asians out there. There was one or two, but just for whatever reason. That was the demographic that was out there. And I said, that's where I learned, and I get in trouble when I say this, apparently. Not say apparently, clearly. When I say I'm colorblind, I'm not around somebody and conscious of their color, of their skin, the tone, the shade of their skin. I grew up in such a diverse situation, not just in the fields, but every aspect of my life, athletics, school, everything. And when you're around that type of mixture, you just don't sit there and say, you're talking with a Mexican kid, you'll sit there, I'm seeing brown. When you're talking about sports or you're talking about your family or the girl you're dating or whatever, I just don't. I guess I choose not to. But that's my background. And there was some, as time went on, you would hear different characterizations of or labels put on certain groups, and some of them not very flattering. Like our poor white folk, Jose, were known as poor white trash, trailer park trash. It came out of that, not too flattering. And you had white folks calling white people that, but it was not. Let's bow our neck and start fighting. It was just some stuff that was said every now and then. I never heard anything other than Mexican white guy. And that wasn't even referred to. That's Vic Cisneros. That's Manuel Flores. It just, the color and the ethnicity wasn't, referred to a lot. As time went on, I heard the term Latino and Latina came into being, but it was emanating from the Latina community. It was pervasive. You had it came out from going, hey, we kind of like we call this, this is what we call it. You're welcome to call us that, and whatever, kumbaya, I call that, whatever. And it was fine. And so it went on, and then lately, in the past year, they and I don't know where it come from. I tell you where it didn't come from for sure. And that was from the Mexican people that I know. They come up with this term, Latinx. And they said, from now on, every Hispanic's going to be Latinx and then you dig into it and you find out that X because they wanted it to be, you're Latin, but you're gender neutral. Okay, so we're going to point that out, but you're gender neutral. And obviously this came out of some think tank at the Ivy League or whatever. But it just hasn't caught on. It hasn't take flight, Jose. And I just saw a survey the other day and saw some interviews, TV, and the Hispanic community is pushing back pretty hard, almost to the tune of saying, you know what, that Latinx, with all due respect, throw it in the trash can. It's offensive. We don't like it. Get out of there. And I kept quiet on it. I'm not going to speak to it. There's everything in the woodpile with me. I'm a mutt. I'm a mixed breed of everything. So probably you could say anything to me and I could be offended, whatever race or whatever occupation. Somebody in my lineage has done it. Probably some from jail cells to farm work to, Mexican, black, white, whatever. There's probably, everything in the woodpile. But I just got a kick out of it because that, I think, is the kind of pushback that needs to happen in society with this nonsense, this critical race theory, where these think tanks out of the Ivy League who, in theory, they put together this bizarre, stupid thing that these kids are racist. They're going to be racist, and you're part of one or two groups, oppressor or oppressed, and this and that. And Latinx, well, we got to label that group. Well, who in the heck gave you the power to label anybody anything? Because you got a Harvard degree? I reminded what Thomas Sowell said. Thomas Sowell was commiserating with one of his friend Walter Williams. He said, Walter, and Thomas Sowell is one of the best economists, 91 years old now, and I think one of the greatest philosophers of our time. He said to Walter, you ever notice, Walter? And here's a guy, Thomas Sowell, who went to Harvard, went to Columbia, and really learned the inner workings of that and got to see how the sausage is made, now they really are. He said, Walter, you ever notice whenever there's a world crisis going on, there's always someone with an Ivy League degree in the middle of it. And Walter says, you know what? I haven't thought of it now. I think you're right. And I'm tickled that the Hispanic community just gave the old kibosh and punted this Latinx out of the lexicon. I think it's one of the best things that ever happened, and way to go for all it's worth. All right, folks, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. Facebook folks, appreciate you so much for tuning in. And the good Lord willing, Creek don't rise. We're going to get a chance to do it on Wednesday. Bye-bye now.